Thank you very much. My name is Niklas. I work with R&D at AstaZero. I will get back into what our part will be to try to make this happen when it comes to transport and automation. But before that, I'd like to start here. Innovation and change. We always think when something is in place that it was so easy to get there. It's apparent. It's just, that's the way it should be when you have a solution. Your toothbrush, whatever you're using, your vacuum cleaner. But actually, what we have to understand is innovation and changes are difficult. The best ideas are not apparent until you have them in your hand. And that goes for the developers, engineers, and also for the public and the users of the products. What you have on the screen now is railway, a step in the railway development sometime in the 19th century. So what do you do when you replace the horses and make people comfortable? You take the horse carriages and put them behind a steam engine. And to avoid getting soot in your hair and your face, you make a very high chimney. And then you start developing, and the engine gets better. You see people sitting on the top of these carriages. What will happen when the engine gets better and the speeds increase? Pretty windy. People fall off and die. So this is a step on the way to what we have today as modern train transport. But this is what they thought was the best solution at that time. So keep that in mind, that it's not so easy to know where we're heading, as was discussed before as well. And another aspect when it comes to change is that change takes a long time, we believe. And some changes, or most, if we look at disruptive changes, is when things become at least a factor of 10 cheaper, more available. The printing press spread knowledge from academia and the really high academics and high executive people to the people. Knowledge was spread. It's like Wikipedia. So printing press made books available for everyone. T-Ford, same thing. Went from hand-built cars to assembly line. A change which made cars available for everybody and changed society. And then digital cameras and smartphones. Everything is step-by-step changes that transform society and the way we live. And the time this change takes is coming shorter and shorter. And we're talking automation and so on. At the same time, it doesn't go as quickly as we believe. This is a vision 50, 60 years ago of future traffic. You seen the same picture before?
I showed it this morning.
I wasn't here, so no responsibility. We think alike. It just shows that it takes, sometimes it goes faster, sometimes it goes slower. But this is not far away now. It's specific use cases. And here, the dream was that which is correct. If you read the small text underneath there, it talks about enjoyable, no fatigue, no collisions. We're actually getting closer now compared to 50, 60 years ago. But looking into the future transport, there are a few components that we believe are needed, which is also reflected by Einright's presentation as well. Electrification. It's not just cleaner. It's something that's going to happen which makes it more efficient and cheaper as well. But the price of batteries are decreasing. And what is interesting is that we've always been so worried about the battery life. On our phone, they die after 2-3 years. But it's shown that if you look at Tesla and so on, these batteries, even after 10-12 years, you still have a lot of capacity left. You don't have to worry so much about batteries becoming depleted and old. The number of moving parts in an electric vehicle compared to a combustion engine goes down for about 2,000 to 20. Higher robustness, cheaper. And more energy efficient. I don't think we have to talk about these details. You know this as well. and infrastructure will be cheaper. No need to drill for oil. You can use common electric production and so on. So electrification is one component. And then we have automation, which is another component of the future transport system. Here, of course, the technology it's almost here. And we know that Google, Waymo, is running a prototype of driverless vehicles in Arizona, in Phoenix, right now. And the technology is almost getting there. It's getting cheaper. And we already have it today in specific areas like mines and logistics areas. We have automation already running, even if it's not so spread. But for light vehicles, the driving force of automation, it's not just technology. It will be more safe, it will be more comfortable for you as a driver, and it will be more efficient and so for commercial vehicles and transport. So, let's see. What we have to keep in mind is that when we go towards automation, it will not just be your car, like we had the previous picture, automated. It will change society and change the type of transport that we have. New vehicles. How will public transport change? That we don't know either. But what we do know is that electrification and automation together, you have Uber without a driver. Mobility as a service. And again, this sort of going back to the fact that these big transformations in society, today your private car is used 5% of its lifetime. It's parked 95%. If you share it with a smart system, utilization can increase to approximately 40%. That is quite a big change in the usage of the investment. So put together electrification, which will make it cheaper and more robust, and automation, which makes it cheaper because the driver disappears, and new types of vehicles. One thing is you buy a cup of coffee and get the ride for free. You'll get your espresso house coffee on the way to work. And you pay for the coffee, you get your ride in a mobile cafe latte wagon. And then when you remove the driver and so make it more efficient, the car, the parking will not be required at the same level as today. You can remodel cities, remove the space in cities as you have here. More green areas, more humanized cities, more human-adapted cities. And one factor in that is when you have these automated vehicles, they can charge and be cleaned somewhere outside the city where you don't live. It also makes it easier, because I know that in central Gothenburg, if you want to have an electric car today, there's nowhere to park it and charge it. But with this setup, you can charge it somewhere in an industrial area where you don't live and spend your time. So we have electrification, we have automation leading to mobility as a service. And we have different types of transport. We have mines, we have commercial areas, we have public transport and those changes. We don't know where they're heading. But we do know, if we go back to AstaZero, where I come from, working with as a test facility for vehicles and the system, we can, looking at what our role is at AstaZero in this area. Today, there are legal requirements for safety of commercial vehicles. You have something called autonomous emergency brake in cars and trucks. For trucks, there are legal requirements. They have to be there, they're mandated. But for a car, it's not. But how many want to have a car with 5 stars in safety when you buy it? That's very good. And that's a consumer rating test. It's not a mandatory requirement. But for many of the OEMs providing vehicles today, a 4 or 5-star rating is mandatory for their marketing. So it's almost mandatory to have these safety functions, including airbags, active safety systems, and so on. And AstaZero today, we are designed and working with testing of these collision prevention systems that you have in heavy vehicles and you have in cars. So looking at this, our role as AstaZero at the first step is looking at testing these vehicles during development and during closer to rating or certification. That's today. But we believe that if you wanted to give a driver's license to a car, and you can sit in the car, play games, watch Netflix, even maybe drink a whiskey on the way back home from work, not to work. I think the society and regulatory authorities will require some kind of formal certification of these vehicles. And that is where we are heading in our preparations as well, looking into technology and our processes to move into certification of vehicles as well. So AstaZero will be part of development, research, development, certification, and soon also certification of these vehicles. But if you look at it, we were talking connectivity and 5G, and we were talking about cities and interaction. We have traffic control in dense cities. I will have a little video later to show an example. It will not only be the vehicles that have to be developed and tested and certified. It will be the infrastructure and communication, connectivity. The whole system has to be tested and safe. And that is a completely new challenge compared to just testing one car or one vehicle. You test the system and the components of the system. So we believe for AstaZero, it's not going to be just vehicle testing. It can be connectivity testing, or infrastructure components that have to be even certified to be able to be hooked into the system. If it's a traffic light or if it's some kind of equipment monitoring an intersection, informing the cars about pedestrians and so on. These components, the whole system grows. So that's one part that we see is in the future. And another thing that we see is that these automated vehicles, some people joke that they're made for cab down weather. They only work in sunny California. But they have to interact with humans. They have to handle snow, rain, fog, tunnels, cities with a lot of different communication and electronic interference, and cybersecurity. So you don't want all the cars to deliver all the milk in Gothenburg to Lindholmen. It's not safety related, but it's an aspect that has to be considered. So that is where we are. AstaZero is going to be part of testing the vehicles, the infrastructure, and the whole system, step by step. And to just finish a bit here, we can take a look at what's ahead of us, see if this works. I have a couple of videos. I have to move it so you see it. Not all traffic that our automated vehicles have to live in are, see where's the mouse there, are as nice and safe and easy as even our city is. Imagine an automated vehicle surviving in this traffic situation. That's one challenge. See if we can get rid of that window. And the other one, because that will be, I think if you put a Waymo vehicle in that situation today, it will just stay there, not go anywhere. Or you can look at what is being done. Let's see. Guys, this was difficult to see. This works now. There we go. Or we can go to some Chalmers fascinating research into how it could look, which is done at AstaZero, of course. Coordinating with communication. In the previous video, there is no traffic light, but people are cooperating by looking at each other. Here we can cooperate the way computers in cars should be, not using sensors, but using communication and technology. So here they allocate a time slot to each other, and they can drive with pretty tight margins and still survive. And that is the type of research that is being done at AstaZero today, together with the development of the cars themselves and soon the infrastructure. That's it. I think I'm about at the end of my time.